Three guys who own a bar in Myanmar. That sounds like the beginning of a joke. So there are these three guys, right? And they own a bar in Myanmar, see? Okay. Sorry, I had to get that out of my system. They wanted to do a promotional ad for their business. So what they did is they put up a flyer on Facebook that featured Buddha, like a Buddha statue, wearing headphones. And the rest of the advertisement basically said they're going to have an open bar and they're going to have what's called shisha pipes. So this somehow generated outrage online. So the owners were arrested. Police shut down the bar. And now the men face 2 years in jail. Now, why specifically is that? Quote, the crime of insulting Buddhism in Myanmar. Yeah. Is there any religion that doesn't turn into a fascist dictatorship at the drop of a pin whenever anybody offends it? Remember, Buddhists are supposed to be the good religion. Like, even when you talk to a lot of atheists, they have a soft spot for Buddhism because in many ways, it's more of a life philosophy than a religion. And naturally, people will bring up that violence is rarely done. It's seldom done in the name of Buddhism. It happens, but it's not nearly as prevalent as it is in the name of Christianity and as it is in the name of Islam and some other religions. So, and look, there's violence in the name of Buddhism against Muslims in Myanmar. Muslims are a very oppressed minority in Myanmar. There's no doubt about that. It's very prevalent. It's a huge issue. But by and large, historically, there is less violence in the name of Buddhism than in the name of Christianity and in the name of Islam. So, but even the good religion, this is the whole point of doing this story and talking about this, is that even the so-called good religion, the so-called best religion of all of them, still turns into a tyrannical force for evil whenever they feel offended. No, it's this mob mentality and this mafia-like system of religion that's so dangerous and so scary and so abusive and so unjust. So think about it. We have Christians in the U.S. who arrested a kid for taking a funny picture with a Jesus statue where the kid was pretending like Jesus was mock-blowing him. That kid was arrested in the United States of America, a country that has separation of church and state. It has freedom of speech, freedom of expression. That kid was arrested. There were no charges, but that kid was arrested. Okay, there's some repression in the name of Christianity. You also have, of course, in the name of Islam, we covered 1 trillion stories on this. In Pakistan, for example, there was a woman who was put to death for saying she doesn't believe in Allah and supposedly insulting the Prophet. Well, if that really is a crime, if I was in Pakistan, they would have had to put me to death about 3,712 times over and over for things I've said. For what I'm saying right now, they would have to put me to death. Why? Because Allah's not real. God is not real. Muhammad is not a prophet. Muhammad's not real. But that right there, what I just did, is a crime punishable by death in some places, including Pakistan. This is the mob mafia mentality. The pure evil mentality of religion. If that's not evil, I don't know what is. Killing somebody because they disagree with you. That's all it is. Killing somebody because they have a different opinion. They didn't do violence against you. They didn't do anything wrong physically. They simply disagree with you. They have a different opinion, and you're going to put them to death, which, by the way, shows a fundamental weakness in your own ideology, because you can't defeat them on the battlefield of ideas. You know you don't have logic on your side. You don't have reason or rationality on your side. So what do? You default to violence. In a very similar way to how the sheriffs in Alabama and Mississippi resorted to violence when there were civil rights protests in their towns. They knew they couldn't win the argument, so when you can't win the argument, you have to silence the opposition. You have to fight the opposition. You have to use physical force against the opposition to intimidate them into shutting up. Because the more they speak, you know, the more that you're diminished because your ideas suck and their ideas are good. So we have a situation like in Pakistan where that happens. We have situations in the Christian world where there's violence and persecution in the name of Christianity, whether it's the KKK, whether it's the Sovereign Citizens Movement, the Phineas Movement. This is a new one. Explicitly Christian terrorists who are doing their terrorism in the name of Christianity. There was a recent terrorist attack with them in Texas. So we have violence in the name of religion all over the place, and the only counter-argument that people give is, well, sometimes in the name of religion, some good is done. And that's true. A lot of people feed the poor in the name of religion, and, or I should say feed the hungry and help the poor and travel the world and do the right thing. There's no doubt. There's no doubt that that happens. But you can do that without believing in the tooth fairy and without believing in a sky god who cares about your thoughts and your actions and had a 7-headed dragon on this earth and a burning bush that talked and a guy that lived to age 900 who made mosquitoes fuck on a boat. You can believe in treating people right and being a moral person and caring about other people without having to have the metaphysical undertones, or actually overtones in many respects, without buying into the voodoo and the witch doctor beliefs